Okay, hello everyone. How is everyone doing today? Some of you might have joined me for my Facebook Live that I had earlier today with two grown world schoolers. So if you didn't catch it, then try to find it on my YouTube channel in a bit. But today I have an awesome mom, an incredible mom of 6 who I can't wait to hear her story because they have had so many adventures over the years, and her kids are amazing and going to university. Some are already finished, some are in process, and some are going to be. So I want to find out how she does it. Everyone say hello to Lona Rodriguez. Lona, how are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
I'm so glad you're here, and tell us where you are currently.
Currently, I'm in Kansas City. This is one of our home bases.
Okay, good. Hey, Kara, how are you? Kara's watching us. She says she can hear us. Good. Let us know if there's any audio issue. And also sometimes as a digital nomad, my internet doesn't work so great. So just in case, I forgot to do this earlier, I'm going to make Lana my co-host. Just in case I go down, then you won't go down. So you can just keep, chatting, make co-host. Okay, cool. Just in case, you never know. Anyway, so everyone, Lana's here from Kansas City, and Lana, you live sometimes in Alaska, correct?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Tell us about your 2 home bases, because I think you also have a sailboat. That sounds really cool.
Yes. I'm from Alaska. My husband's from Kansas. I came to Kansas for college and met him. So our first 3 kids were born in Alaska. Our second 3 kids were born in Kansas City. And we really just tried to divide our time when we're not traveling other places so that they have the connection with both of those states.
That's awesome. And how old are your kids now?
My kids are 25, 23, 21, 16, 14, and 11.
Wow, amazing, amazing. And you always homeschool them, correct?
Yep, since my oldest was 3 years old, she begged me to teach her hooked on phonics so she could learn to read.
Oh, that's amazing. Wow, at 3 years old. Okay. Yeah, so I think she was the really bright one that went to college quite young. So I can't wait to hear that story. But did you homeschool them? You taught them, you had some type of curriculum, correct? You didn't explain how that worked, starting at, a 3-year-old.
Okay. Yes. Well, with her, I followed her lead. She wanted to learn to read. We got hooked on phonics. I scheduled a time for her to practice daily. It was like 15 minutes, I think. And she learned to read. And that was really all we did, other than your typical learn your colors. We learned some Spanish, just your typical, normal parenting things.
Mm-hmm.
Then as other kids came, I've done everything. I've unschooled. Oh my gosh, we've done it all. It's been 22 years. So,
Yeah. Did they ever
with my
a local school, either in the US or abroad?
My oldest daughter, when we first moved to Kansas City from Alaska, we were full-time in Alaska. Then we moved full-time to Kansas City for a period of time. We were in one of the best school districts in the nation. My husband still wasn't 100% on board with homeschooling. She was 6. So she did 1 semester at the local elementary school. Okay. And then he got on board.
Really?
It just
Why?
was not a good fit. So she'd already been reading chapter books for 2 years at that point. When we had the first parent-teacher conference, the teacher said she still needed to work on memorizing her letters. And my husband and I were like, oh, she has no idea what my daughter is capable of. And it was a lot of busy work, which my daughter wasn't used to. And my daughter didn't do it. And so at recess, the teacher would make her run laps around the playground and she couldn't play. And I was like, okay, enough of this. And so my husband agreed. And so we brought her back home, and learned the way she wanted to learn, which for her was a full curriculum. I used Calvert, a school out of Maryland, and they send whole box curriculums down to the pencils and crayons and paper and everything. So I did the preschool curriculum with her. I did the kindergarten first, all the way up till 6th grade. And she used to always ask me, what grade are my friends in? Because we didn't really use grades, but I would say, your friends are in 2nd grade. She's like, okay, I want to finish 3rd grade. And so she did it all on her own accord. It was really just, she was driven that way.
Wow.
She's my only child so far that's ever been driven that way. So yeah, so we did a lot of just curriculum with her. And I just really, she knew how to read. I really just laid it out for her. I let her do as much or little as she wanted. I didn't push her. The drive was within herself. And then when my now 21-year-old, I have 2 girls, a boy, 2 girls, a boy. So my boys are surrounded by girls. So when my 21-year-old was 2, I got my Montessori teacher training, and then kind of set up my house as a little Montessori school. And I brought other boys in his age, 2 and 3-year-old boys, a couple days a week. It was a way to supplement my income and give him some friends that were boys and around his age, just to kind of take away from all the girl and Barbie things we had going on in our house.
Oh my God, amazing. That's so smart. Okay. So you ran the Montessori for a while, and you mentioned that you guys have been traveling. I mean, from the beginning, you had an RV and you would RV around. Can you share about that?
Yeah, when my kids were little and maybe when our funds were less, it was a lot easier for me to travel by RV. And so every year we would drive to or from Alaska. We would make that drive from Kansas City to Alaska. And we still do it just about every year. COVID slowed us down a little bit with the Canadian border being closed, but and then we would have our home on wheels, which not all of my children are as flexible to travel, like they like their routines, they like their beds, they like their foods. And so travel to hotel rooms and that sort of thing got really difficult for some of my kids, which then made it difficult for me and for everybody else in the family. So I found the RV to be a really great way to still fill my kind of wanderlust to explore and do new things. And for some of my other kids that really enjoy that too, but to keep the routine similar for my other kids. So they slept in their same bed every night, everything in the RV was the same no matter where we were, which made the travel just a lot easier for those kids and then me.
That's amazing. And you said that your husband was kind of running a brick and mortar business, so he couldn't travel with you that much. So you were traveling with your kids, as a solo parent. That's amazing. Must have been kind of a lot of work for you. I'm impressed.
Yeah, it was a little bit, but my kids are all very helpful. They all get along really well. So I wasn't having to deal with behavioral issues so much. It's just the logistical issues. And my son, my 21-year-old, as soon as he was like 10, 11, 12 years old, he became very helpful, and he could help with all the RV stuff if I had kind of issues and didn't really know how to make something work. So we just kind of all worked together as a team and just accepted when things didn't go the way they were supposed to go, and made the best of all the situations we had. But yes, we've explored the whole US by RV.
Yeah, you said you've been to all 50 states, which is incredible.
Yes.
Cool. And then when did you start traveling abroad?
Well, my oldest daughter went to Mexico for the first time when she was 4 months old. So we've been doing it. We just had a little period of time where we didn't do it as much. So I would say we always went abroad probably once a year, but then it wasn't until, I don't know, I want to say 2014, we started spending extended periods abroad. We started venturing into 1 and 2 and 3 months abroad. Once my youngest was about 3 years old, 3 to 4, it felt a little more manageable. to manage all the kids, because my husband still did not travel abroad with us. He might do a week out of our travels with us, but that was about all that he could manage at that time.
Traveling with 6 kids by yourself. I mean, I traveled with 2, and people thought that was amazing. And I'd go to Mexico with them too, but 6, that's amazing. So you would fly there or you would drive in your RV?
We would fly. Yeah. I've not, only Canada is the only country I have driven my physical cars through. I've rented cars when I get places, but we typically fly.
Okay. And do your kids speak Spanish?
A little bit. I wouldn't, they're definitely not fluent, which is really kind of a sad story considering my husband is, but it just didn't happen in our household. I don't really know why. And I'm not fluent either. But they definitely have had experience. Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah.
But I always make them speak it when we're there, in all the countries we go, we try to learn the basic phrases, and to be able to order food. And so I always make all of my kids order all their own food. If they're shopping, they deal with the money, I don't. That's kind of the Montessori in me, is teaching my kids to do for themselves whatever they're capable of doing. And then that makes my life so much easier because I don't have to do everything for everyone.
Of course. Yeah, totally. They become independent so early. So tell us some about some of the countries that you went to that you liked. You mentioned something about Fiji and living on a chief's private island. You mentioned that to me before. So tell us about that story.
Yeah, it's so funny. Out of all of our travels, that has been all of my kids' favorite. We did it with Jenny Vogel. She did a group. There was about 10 families, and they had this connection with this chief. And typically they just hosted university students to learn and help build projects like water desalination and solar projects for the island to be more self-sufficient. But they invited us to come, and it was such an amazing experience. No luxury. This island didn't have cars or stores or anything. It was just residences. And we would do a 45-minute boat ride to get to a store or to the town if we needed to get a SIM card or we needed Wi-Fi. I still work remotely no matter where I am. So I would go into town like once a week to try to get some work done with Wi-Fi. But yeah, no electricity, no running water, no flush toilets. And our huts that we lived in had curtains for the windows and doors. So it was open to the outside, which was beautiful, and also an adjustment because we'd have like ants in our bed and, just things, because you're living with nature. And so the first couple of days were adjustments, and then we were living in community with 10 other families. And so, there's definitely that adjustment that goes on. But to this day, that's my kids' favorite trip.
Amazing. I mean, it sounds like really hard, and a lot of people wouldn't be able to put up with it, but it was their favorite trip. I need to get kids into like something like that. They're too spoiled with electricity.
Oh, I know.
All of that.
So, and my son, who's 21, he was 17 or 18 at the time, and really a gamer. And in fact, didn't always like to travel with me because of that aspect. But he wanted to do this trip, and so he went. And he said it was such a relief for him that he didn't expect to not have that pressure of being online all the time for his friends and different people. And so that showed me that sometimes I need to make it a priority to get us disconnected.
Yeah. And take a little break from all of that. Amazing. Okay. So you've been to many, many different countries. What do you think this has done to affect your kids, good and bad? First, let's talk about the benefits of world schooling and immersing yourselves into different cultures. What good has it brought to your family?
Oh, the benefits are innumerable. I don't think I'm even aware of all the benefits. But when we were in Sumatra, we spent a day with a Muslim school with children there. My kids spent the day with them. And Unfortunately, I had some concerns about being in a Muslim country. I hadn't been before. The only thing I knew is what I had been told by the news. And so I was a little nervous, but it was such a beautiful experience for all of us. And I think it really taught my kids and me, especially, to not make these preconceived judgments based on something someone's told us, and to learn about people and cultures firsthand. So the prejudice and the, things that we might have had or maybe would have at some point in our life kind of been wiped away by our experience with all these different cultures. And every time we would go somewhere, my kids would say, "Oh my gosh, the people here are so nice." And then we'd go to another country, "Oh my gosh, the people here are so," and everywhere we went, my kids were saying this. And at one point, my daughter, who was 13 at the time, said, "I think maybe just people in America are not nice."
And people think we're nice or we're friendly,
yeah.
We're friendly, but
and I think that we are, as a whole, I hope people that meet us think we are friendly overall, but our experiences traveling in the US are not as welcoming as places abroad.
Interesting. Yeah.
So that's one aspect.
Yeah. I think, again, the media, it just shows us a certain picture, and then we see these obviously bad events that happen around the world, because that's what gets on the news, and you just think of these negative things. And I keep telling people, when you go out there in the real world and meet real people and become friends with them, you will see that the vast majority of people are very kind and nice and welcoming. And don't let the news scare you.
Yes, absolutely. So that's definitely been one benefit. The other is just the maturity that comes. Maturity, flexibility. You're not going to get chicken nuggets everywhere you go, and you're going to have to learn to eat the food with the people the way they eat it. When we were in Nepal, we ate with our hands because that is their culture. And, so it's just kind of taking away, even for me, right? Because I don't know how many times my kids were like 3 to 6, and I'm like, "Don't eat with your hands, use your fork, use your spoon." Right. And then it was just all flipped on its head because that is culturally appropriate in some places.
Right.
So, just that kind of flexibility of sleeping in a different place, eating different food, not being able just to run to the store and get your favorite snack. Those sorts of things, I think, are really beneficial for kids, to not just have what you want when you want it. It's easily accessible. I just really see the benefits in that kind of delayed gratification, or looking to find gratification in different ways with different things and different people. And then watching my girls, we were just in London in November, and my girls are 14, my younger girls are 14 and 16 now. And they've been to London several times, but this was the first time they were like older, and we were there with the Worldschool group. So they had friends there, and I let them explore London on their own. They knew how to do everything. They used their phones for the subway system, and they just felt so confident and emboldened to be able to do this. And I love giving my kids those opportunities because I know that confidence is going to follow them through their life.
Exactly. How many countries have you guys been to so far?
I'm sorry, I knew you were going to ask that question. I have no idea. I was like, let me go through my passports and see if I can find all the stamps. I don't know. I really don't know. Over 30.
40. Okay, cool.
Yeah, but I really don't know. I can't. And I'm like, I need to remember all these things. Oh, remember when we went to Qatar? It was so, so I need to
you went
do
to some
about
countries that are kind of off the beaten track for Worldschoolers. So that's really cool. How do you choose where you want to go?
I am very non-planning. I just, when we were over in Southeast Asia, I would just be like, I'm feeling bored. We've been here for like 6 weeks now. I'm getting a little bored. Let me see where the cheapest plane tickets are and just go somewhere. So yeah, just whatever I could find that We hadn't been. That
Mhm.
was inexpensive. That, kind of fit in our schedule. We would just go and explore a little bit.
Cool. Yeah, because you have a big
So that's how we
family.
ended up in Qatar.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some of the challenges that have happened on the road. What is the hard part about traveling?
Um, Gosh, I try to take my challenges in stride and I don't really even think about them a lot. But I mean, I've been in Indonesia and needed cash, and the ATM machines everywhere around stopped working, and I could not get access to cash. So that can get a little frustrating, a little nerve wracking. Kind of taught me to always keep some cash tucked aside just in case. Um, Most recently, we were in Peru in July and I got sick. And that's my first time traveling that I've gotten like really sick. I was in the hospital for 4 days in
Oh
Peru.
my God.
That wasn't super fun. And that got in the way of our plans. We were doing this 5-day trek, me, my husband, and 4 kids. And I got sick the night before the trek and like really sick. And
Was it like a
so
stomach thing or like COVID or like altitude sickness?
I no, I got food poisoning, and then I also had a parasite infection, which
Oh, no.
I'm gonna guess was from a recent trip to Mexico because I hadn't been in Peru or long enough or in the jungle. But I think just the
Okay.
combination of the two just took me down fast.
Oh, no.
So we didn't send our kids on the trek because my husband was with me in the hospital, and so that was a mess. But we had travel insurance.
Mhm.
So I was very thankful for that. They covered the whole entire hospital stay.
Wow.
They also changed our plane tickets because I was going to take the kids by myself. My husband was going to stay with us for a week, then he was going to go back. I was going to take the kids to the Amazon rainforest, and we were going to stay in the forest with a village. Anyway, I had to cancel that
Oh my
because I was too sick.
And your insurance
But
covered
then
that. What
they
company
did.
did you
And
use?
I use Allianz,
Allianz. Okay.
and I am really, really happy with them. But
Good.
yeah, they booked our plane tickets to come home early. They flew me home first class because I still couldn't sit up completely. Um, so that was the
Wow.
worst hiccup I've had. And it's just one of those things, my one of my daughters ate the same food I ate. We ate the same thing. I
Hmm.
don't really know. There's no, so you
Yeah.
can't plan for everything. You can't predict everything, but
Yeah.
you just got to go with the flow. Once we knew that I was going to make it, we sent our kids on that trek for the last 3 days of it. We were with 3 other families that were our friends. And then my oldest daughter, who's 25, was there too. So she took the 3 younger kids and they did 3 days of the trek. And then we met up with them. I took the train to Cusco,
Okay.
or not from Cusco. We went to Machu Picchu.
Right.
So anyway, I took the train and then was able to do the walk a little bit. So
That's good.
all in all, not a wasted trip.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's so hard. I contracted salmonella in India years ago as a young backpacker, and it just messed up my stomach for months. It was awful. So how do you find community when you travel, or do you? You're talking about the hub that you went to in London and other families that you're meeting. So is that important to you guys?
Yes, when I traveled with my oldest 3 kids, this wasn't a thing. There were not world schoolers around. I had found some homeschoolers in France, and so we would hang out with them when we would go to France. But other than that, we just traveled alone. And for my older kids, that got to be super boring when they got to be teenagers, and they just were not interested in it anymore.
Mhm.
So my oldest daughter still like to travel with me, and that was fine. But my next 2, they really weren't into it. They would rather be around their friends. So with my next set of kids, same husband, same marriage,
Yeah,
all me, but we had a 5-year gap between our first 3 and our second 3. I always get
interesting.
those questions. Um, so then I decided this is really important to get this community. And for me too, it always gets a little lonely, especially when your kids are young, and they're going to bed at 7 or 8 o'clock, and then
Yeah.
you have no adult companionship. So I really, really have enjoyed the community. And we found our first one in Bali where we did a 6-week program. And then I met great friends, and we continue meeting up with these same people in different places. And we just kind of all like, so what are you doing in October? Where are you going to be? And then we just try to
Cool.
find each other. And then I do these World Schooling Hub for my son that Rachel Carlson is doing.
I'm going to
My
one
son is
next week.
great. Okay, yeah. My son is great friends with her son. So we just tend to follow them around and go
Awesome.
wherever we can that fits within our schedule.
That
So,
is awesome. Yeah, I really like
yeah,
what he's created, and I like how other families can just, hop on and host a meetup. Let's get back to
yeah.
talking about your kids and learning. Your oldest started college really young. So what was that process like? And how did you have homeschool transcripts? Did she take the SATs? Like, how did she get into Harvard?
Okay, so my oldest daughter started at our local community college when she was 14. And we just went in. She had not taken the SATs. I did create a homeschool transcript for her for all high school, 4 years, even though she was only 14. And then the local community colleges, I think a lot of them do this, just do placement tests. You go in, you take a test, they see where you place, and then you enroll in those classes. And because she had been such a studious student, she placed into the honors program at our local community college. She was taking 17 credit hours that first semester when she was 14 and got a 4.0, which great. But for me, I was like, okay, she's still not being challenged enough. So we finished out the year, and I just really was doing research because I couldn't challenge her enough anymore, and her thinking was beyond just your typical high school thinking. And we still did some high school curriculum, but she needed more. So that's when I came across Harvard Extension School, which is like the adult learner program, but I think now they call it non-traditional students. And she definitely was a non-traditional student. So we did the placement through them. We transferred her credits there. And then when she was 15, she started there at Harvard Extension School.
Was it online or in person?
It was both. So with Harvard Extension School, most classes, not most, a lot of classes are available online. You are required to do so many credits on campus. So I think you have to do 16 or 20 credits on campus. So she did the majority of her learning online. We went there for one summer. My husband and I took turns staying with her through a summer semester. So that she could be on campus, see what she thinks about it. Do you really like this? Do you want to continue with this? So we did that throughout the summer, and then she really liked it. And then we arranged an apartment for her, and she moved there when she was 17.
Wow.
And finished out the last bit of her schooling, and then graduated at 19 from Harvard.
Amazing. Okay, so she lived in an apartment by herself. Did she have roommates? Did she have that?
She had 4 roommates. Yeah,
Okay.
she had 4 roommates, all older than them. They were all girls though. We were the first person to sign on. And so we were able to say, we just want girls,
Right.
And yeah, they were all older. It was such a great experience for her. She was young and very naive, never had a boyfriend, just she had never been interested in anything really than studying and school and reading. And that's what her life consisted of. So she was surrounded by great women, young women, between 19 to 25 that were all students at different universities. And it was a great experience for her.
So you felt like she was finally in her element, even though she was young, she was with a lot of really bright people, and she did, because it seems like she wanted to be with people who could keep up with her, I guess.
Yeah, no, it was really great. And then just being on campus, because she was so driven, she got jobs and she worked in research and was working at the Harvard labs in research, and she really loved that. Yeah. So no, it was a great catalyst to her life now. Now she's in her 3rd year PhD program, fully funded. She gets paid every month by the school,
What is she, what's her line of study?
psychology. So she's currently a therapist. She's finished that portion of it, and she got a little delayed in it because her first year in her PhD program was COVID. So she wasn't getting the hours she needed in person. But yeah, she's in her third year and loving it and doing great things. She's had some articles published. Yeah, we're just really proud of her.
And she's still there at Harvard or at a different school?
No, she's at University of Louisville now, is where she fit in. And she did 5 or 6 interviews with universities, but she's also a very frugal person. And so like she could have gone to Hawaii, but it wasn't fully funded. It was partially funded. And Louisville is 100% funded. And so she just chose that, and it was a good fit for her as well.
It's amazing. Yeah. I mean, I meet friends who have, highly gifted kids, child prodigies, whatever you want to call them. And some of them do start university early, like yours did. Others try to keep them out as long as possible, but it's a challenge to keep them mentally stimulated with all the learning stuff, because so many, I hear the stories of kids who go to school, even if they have the honors programs or whatever, they're so bored that they start causing trouble and start, having a lot of issues. So it's really amazing what you did with her. So your other kids, a couple of them started school also a little early, but they're not on that same track that your oldest was, correct? Let's talk about what they went to.
Yeah, so my second daughter actually started college at 15. And she went away to college at 15 and lived in dorms. She went on a dance scholarship. Still a community college, not a 4-year school, and still a small school that my husband and I were familiar with. But she was the child that wanted autonomy really early and really needed it for her well-being and for mine. So going to college was the best choice for her. So she danced and cheered in college and got her associate's degree at 17. Okay. And so she's done. No, she is. So then she went back to school later to get her cosmetology degree because she decided she wanted to do that. So then she worked at a hair salon for a year, then decided she didn't want to do that. So now she works in marketing. And just last night, she told me, I think I'm going to go back to school. I just really want my 4-year degree. So, she's just kind of on her own timeline, doing her own thing, which I think is great. And she didn't know really what she wanted to do, so I appreciate that she's taken the time to really decide what she wants to do before she pursues it.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I just, I keep promoting that learning is lifelong, and that we don't have to figure it all out by the age of 18 or 21 or whatever. And, so many people change their careers throughout their lives. So, I mean, why not our kids too? Okay, so your younger ones, you mentioned that they're also on track to start school early. I mean, I thought that the community college, the dual enrollment for a homeschooler usually starts at 16, but I guess you said that you can apply earlier and take the placement test and start earlier, correct?
Yes, and I don't do dual enrollment. I graduate my kids before they start college. So I don't do dual enrollment. We finish high school before they start. And so they enroll as college students that are younger. Okay,
and you create the transcripts and you create a diploma, or do you work with an umbrella school?
Yeah. No, I do the transcripts myself.
Okay. Awesome.
I'm the teacher. My husband's the principal.
Okay.
The address is our house.
Good. That's awesome. Wonderful. What advice would you give to other families who are starting to world school? They're pulling their kids out of school. I mean, maybe some of them have homeschooled them in the past. There's such a mixture of families that are starting to travel, who are, hoping that their kids would want to go to college. What advice would you have for them? Keep track of what they're learning, perhaps?
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. I keep, we do kind of work samples 4 times a year in all the traditional subjects. Maybe our style of work is not traditional, but we put something down on paper that shows where they're currently at, just to have. So we do that in, whatever your social studies, your reading, writing, math, science, we do it music and art, we do it in all the subjects. And that's just to hold me accountable and to hold my kids accountable. So even some of the subjects, we may not do book work in it, but we were just in Rome and learned all of this stuff. So my kids will make up their own report or slideshow or art project. Some of them like to write, some of them will write kind of an essay. So it's really geared to them, but I try to hold us all accountable, because with my first 3 kids, I didn't really do that. We really unschooled a lot, other than my oldest daughter. Well, my oldest daughter was still unschooled, but it was her choice that she wanted to do all the curriculum. My next 2 kids did not want to do the curriculum. And so I've had feedback from them. Greatest thing about having adult kids, they tell you everything you did wrong. And so my son, who started college early too, at 15, he said, "Mom, my first test ever was in a college classroom and it was timed. I freaked out. It was stressful for me."
Wow.
And so I was like, oh, I thought I was doing a good thing by not testing and, just letting you learn on your own terms. But that made it harder for him to feel successful later. So now we do math and reading, writing year round. We don't stop. Even when we're traveling, we might not do it as often, but we keep on those basics. And my kids do take tests now, not often, but, regular enough that they get a feel for it so that it's not stressful later, because I do see that as being somewhat of a disadvantage if you want to go to college later. And maybe you don't want to go to college later, but I don't see it as being detrimental to them in any way. There's not someone standing over them and there's no pressure involved. It's just to see where you're at.
Right. Okay. So you do, where do you find these tests? Online?
Well, I use a set math curriculum. I use Saxon Math, and it's what I've used for all of my kids. We've taken breaks over the period, different years, but I really find it to be thorough and easy. So we travel with that. And I use, with that Saxon Math, there is a website called Nicole the Math Lady, and she has videos that teach the Saxon Math lessons. The kids actually then go in and put their answers in, and it's graded right there. Takes a lot of the pressure off of me of having to grade their work and stay on top of it. And it gives them the autonomy to be responsible for their own education.
Okay, awesome. Maybe later, if you don't mind, if you can come into the group and put in the comments the website for the second one, because I got the first one, Saxon Math. That would be awesome, just for people who want to check it out. Awesome. Well, this is so great. And I just want to see if anyone has questions. See Kara saying, I like Allianz. Travel insurance is so important. Being a resident of Alaska is a good idea. Jeff says, Lona, would you be willing to provide an example for your kids' sample study project as a template? I'm loving this.
Okay, a sample study, like some of their work samples that they've done. Is that what he's asking?
Yeah, Jeff, can you answer? Do you actually want to see what her kids are doing, or you want her to explain it a little bit more? Can you let us know in the chat? Yeah, I think he's quite impressed. We're very interested in following in your footsteps, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe Jeff can reach out to you directly.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
You want to put all your kids' work, learning work all over the internet.
Yeah, they probably wouldn't like that. I still am getting a little feedback from them about talking about them. They're kind of like, Mom, but
yeah,
no one has outright said, Mom, don't do that. If they did, I would respect their words, and I tell them, I don't say names, they don't know who they are.
Yeah, Jeff said he'll DM you if you're open to that.
Okay, absolutely.
Okay, cool. You were part of the multi-author book about world schooling recently. Yes. I bought the book. I haven't had a chance to get through it all yet, but what did you write about in your book, just briefly?
Pretty much everything we're talking about today, just kind of that journey, and then maybe some anecdotes, some little stories of things that have happened to us in our travels. But really what I have found is not a lot of people have homeschooled as long as I have, or
Mhm.
world schooled as long as I have. So the focus tends to go like, how do they become adults, you know? And so I just try to focus because I know that's what a lot of people are interested in.
Mhm.
So yes, my oldest daughter bought her first house 2 years ago, you know, so it's I think they
That's
can
amazing.
be just as productive. Actually, I would say I think they can be more productive members of society when they have the freedom to explore themselves, explore their world, um, and come up with their own ideas and not kind of what's being fed to them. And I
Right.
really try to encourage my kids to be their own thinkers. You know, they'll ask me questions and I just flip it right back to them. What do you think? You know, because I don't want them to be little mini me's running around. I want them to be their own person with their own identity, separate from me, separate from the rest of the family.
That is such amazing advice. It's so true because a lot of people want carbon copies of themselves. And I guess I had this weird idea when I had twin girls, they were going to be mini versions of me, but they're so different from me, which is good
Yeah.
and bad because sometimes I'm like, why can't you be more, why are you such an introvert where I'm more extroverted? But that's the way they are, the way
Yeah.
they were made.
No, and it can be very difficult too, you know, because sometimes their belief systems can then develop to be very, very different from yours. And as a parent, that's kind of hard sometimes, but I just take everything in stride and know that they're still developing and growing their opinions. Even my opinions now at the age I am way different than when I was 25, you know? So I'm not going to tell anybody their thoughts or opinions are not right, or, you know, it's just,
Yeah.
it's kind of this journey of life, you know? And I think we're all on it and we should stay on it and continue growing and learning. And the more you grow and learn, your ideas are going to change. And that's a good
Absolutely.
thing.
Yeah, lifelong learning. And again, just I just think go out in the world and see it for yourselves versus what other people, whether it's the media or teachers or textbooks or whatever, are telling you the way things are.
Yeah.
So it's amazing. I mean, homeschooling is a little bit alternative, obviously, from traditional school and putting your kids in the system. And then world schooling on top of that is next level. So kudos to you for doing both and having such amazing results with your kids. And they seem, very independent from what you're telling me, and very accomplished and mature. And that's what I am finding when I come across grown world schoolers, at how mature they are and how much more sure of themselves they are than I think kids who are in the system. Do you
Yeah.
agree?
Yeah.
I mean, because I'm sure
Oh,
that you have
absolutely.
met other world schoolers as well, like older kids.
Yeah. No, and what I love, you know, my daughters are on some competitive dance teams, and one is in a ballet company, and so that kind of keeps us in one place. Well, it keeps them more in one place than me. I have let them know that I'll still continue traveling, and they can join me when they can. But so we hang out with their friends in dance as well.
Mhm.
And then we hang out with World School and homeschoolers. And the big difference I see is the confidence level and the ability to talk with different ages. Because a lot of those peers that have been traditionally schooled are really only comfortable talking to their age peer group. Whereas homeschoolers and world schoolers especially, I can have deep conversations with other 14-year-olds, and I love that and I appreciate that, and that's such a gift for those kids that they don't even know yet, that they can communicate with all age groups and feel confident in it, and that's a big thing.
And not just all age groups, but people in other countries. I mean, even if
Yeah.
they don't speak the language, they still might go up and chat with somebody, ask questions and all of that. So,
Absolutely.
wow.
Yeah, yeah, and they have the confidence to do it, and that's a great thing.
Yeah. I mean, I keep saying, I guess my goal, other than raising my kids to be global citizens, is I want, when they're 18 or 20 or 25, whatever the age is, I want to be able to drop them in any major city in the world and they'll be fine. They'll be able to get around and figure things out on their own and not be afraid. And,
Yeah.
so I don't know why it's important to me, but it is. And you meet so many, grown adults who haven't traveled much and they're so afraid, like, how do I take the metro?
Yeah.
How do I get from the airport to this place, and I want them
Yeah.
to be fine with all of that.
Well, and I think there's more to that than just the being able to be comfortable traveling. But when you are and you face those difficult situations, and I mean, I think we've all been fearful a little bit, when you're in a new situation, you're like, oh my gosh, I can't figure this out. And, there's a little bit of fear that comes in, but you overcome it. And then the fear goes away. And I think that's a life lesson for kids too, because we might be faced with fear in our daily life that has nothing to do with travel. But when you learn that you have overcome these little fearful things over and over and over again, it can completely change your mindset and you're not fear driven. And then that when something fearful comes up in you, you can overcome it because you've done it over and over.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, overcoming your fears of traveling and versus overcoming your fear of taking a time test,
Yeah.
we all have to figure those things out. Amazing.
Yes,
Lona. Thank you
absolutely.
so much for sharing your story. And Kara is saying, I love hearing your story. It's very encouraging. Thank you for sharing. I don't like tests in public schools, but I understand the basic necessity of tests. I guess if you're going to be going to university, that's just par for the course. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. And again, I hope you can maybe drop a couple of the links of where, the two learning apps, the math things that you mentioned. Also, you are starting to do some retreats. You have a new women's retreat. So do you want to mention that?
Yes, I've just started doing women's retreat. In fact, my second one is in April. And it's just for moms because I think having 6 kids and homeschooling and worldschooling, I really was devoted to my children, which I think is a great thing, but I lost myself along the way. And I think it's really important for women to take some time for themselves because we do so much for those around us that sometimes we just need some time to focus on ourselves and not what everybody else needs and to meet our own personal needs. And then you come back so much better. I just feel so much more refreshed when I take that time for myself. And so I just want to help other women do that too.
That's great.
So,
Where is the retreat going to be?
It's going to be in Hawaii on the Big Island.
Beautiful. Nice. Yes. And please post that link if you have something to share about that as well. Okay. Great. And hopefully people, if they're watching the replay, they can ask questions. And then I'll tag you later, Lona, and see if you can answer if you feel the urge to do that.
Absolutely.
So thank you. I really appreciate this conversation.
Thank you. It was a lot of fun.
Thanks for watching. This is Lizz Quain with Trailblazing Families. My twins and I have been traveling and worldschooling for over 6 years, and I'm happy to share about our experiences. Make sure to check out the other videos on this channel. I do have a playlist of all the other interviews of other worldschooling families and service providers. We're all happy to share our information and wisdom about how to best live this worldschooling, digital nomad, and family travel lifestyle. If you're new to worldschooling and need a bit of help, I do have a super comprehensive 12-week program on how to travel extensively as a family and how to worldschool, how to educate your kids. There's many different ways to do it. So reach out to me and schedule a no obligation Zoom meeting so we can have a quick chat and see if my program is a good fit for you. Thanks and happy trails.